Erase him like he erased you, let him feel the loss. That's not bitterness speaking, that's clarity. Too many people spend their lives begging to be seen by someone who has already made the choice not to see them. Too many waste their energy pleading for acknowledgement from a person who has decided their presence is disposable. You don't win by arguing with that reality. You win by stepping back and making their decision final. If he erased you, then let him discover what that truly means. Remove yourself completely and force him to live with the silence he created. The first principle of strength is detachment from dependency. When someone leaves, you must not chase. Chasing is not love. It is the exposure of fear, the nakedness of desperation, the handing over of your dignity on a silver plate. The most powerful move you can make is to act as if the erasure was not a wound, but a liberation. Stand upright with your shoulders back and walk forward. You do not need to scream. You do not need to beg. You do not need to post reminders of your worth. True worth never announces itself. It radiates quietly, and those who ignored it eventually suffer its absence. There is a reason absence burns deeper than presence ever can. When someone is around, their value can be taken for granted. But when they vanish, the brain begins to replay every detail, searching for what has been lost. That's the lesson here. Your silence becomes louder than all your words. Your absence is the storm that wakes him from his sleep. If he erased you, then give him nothing to hold on to, nothing to reach for, nothing to manipulate. Allow him to confront the void where your presence once stood, and let him realize that his arrogance cost him more than he calculated. But here is the part that matters. You don't erase him for the sake of his punishment. You erase him for your resurrection. You cannot rebuild your identity if you keep returning to the ruins. Too many people get trapped in cycles of pain because they keep peeking through the window of the past, wondering if the one who walked away might someday look back. That's weakness disguised as hope. Strength is building such a life, such a presence, such a self, that looking back becomes irrelevant. You don't need his recognition because you've already validated yourself by refusing to shrink. Understand this, erasing him is not cruelty. It is justice. If someone chose to disregard your loyalty, your love, and your effort, they must be allowed to live in a world where that loyalty, love, and effort no longer exist. Protect your energy like a fortress. Do not allow the door to swing open for someone who proved incapable of guarding it. That is not harshness. That is wisdom. That is discipline. That is you refusing to betray yourself for the sake of a man who betrayed you first. Now he will feel it. Make no mistake. At first he may laugh, he may gloat, he may act indifferent. But indifference is a fragile mask. In the quiet moments, in the hours when distraction fades, in the stillness of the night, he will remember. He will remember the way your presence softened his world, the way your energy added weight to his steps. He will reach for his phone, but there will be no messages. He will scroll through memories, but you won't be there to validate them. He will feel the loss, not because you tried to prove it, but because you lived it. And here lies the paradox. The more you focus on erasing him, the less you actually heal. True erasure happens when you redirect every ounce of energy back into yourself. Develop your mind. Strengthen your body. Build your future. Surround yourself with people who respect you without conditions. The greatest revenge is not to hurt him. It is to elevate yourself so far that he cannot even recognize the person he once dismissed. That is when he feels the real weight of the loss. Not because you punished him, but because you transformed while he stayed the same. So stand tall. Do not linger in conversations that lead nowhere. Do not post subtle hints, waiting for him to notice. Do not stalk his silence with your questions. Detach, disappear, rebuild. That's the formula. He thought he erased you, but all he really did was set you free. And freedom is the most dangerous weapon in the hands of someone who once felt trapped. Erase him like he erased you, not out of spite, but out of power. Not because you need him to suffer, but because you need yourself to rise. And when you do, he will feel the absence more than he ever felt your presence. That is how you turn loss into strength, betrayal into discipline, and heartbreak into a new foundation. Your silence will echo louder than all your words. Your absence will strike deeper than your presence ever did. And your decision to erase him will not only let him feel the loss, It will teach you that you never needed him in the first place. When someone erases you, the most powerful response is to remove them from the center of your life and channel your energy back into yourself. That is not weakness, it is strength. That is not surrender, it is strategy. Too many people spend their lives trying to fight for a place in someone's story, even when that story has already excluded them. The tragedy is not being erased. The tragedy is allowing your worth to be determined by someone who failed to recognize it. The moment you redirect your focus back to yourself, you begin to reclaim the authority over your own existence. When you put someone at the center of your life, you give them the power to define your mood, your value, and even your future. If they choose to leave, you collapse because your identity was built around them. But the truth is this, no one deserves that much power over you. You are not meant to orbit another person like a planet circling a sun. You are meant to stand as a source of light yourself. The center of your life should be your own purpose, your own growth, and your own strength. When you build that foundation, no erasure can undo you. This is why the most effective response is not chasing, not pleading, not proving. It is redirecting. When someone erases you, they expect you to fight for attention. They expect you to fall apart, to send desperate messages, to collapse under the weight of rejection. But when you do the opposite, when you withdraw, when you channel all that energy into your own development, you send a message more powerful than words. You show that their absence does not diminish you. It only accelerates your evolution. Loss can either break you or build you. It all depends on what you choose to do with it. If you wallow in self-pity, replaying every detail, hoping for explanations that never come, you chain yourself to the very person who tried to erase you. But if you take that same pain and turn it into fuel, if you pour it into your body, your mind, your goals, then the loss becomes the teacher that sharpens you. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. Suffering comes from staying stuck in what could have been. Strength comes from using what happened as the very reason to rise. Erasing someone is not about pretending they never mattered. It's about refusing to let them control what happens next. It's about breaking the attachment to the story you thought you were writing with them and picking up the pen again for yourself. When you place them at the margins instead of the center, you finally see that your life was never meant to orbit around a single person's approval. It was meant to expand, to deepen, to rise beyond what they could ever offer. And here's the paradox. The moment you stop chasing, the moment you stop centering them, that is when they feel the weight of their own choice. Your absence becomes louder than your presence ever was. Your silence becomes heavier than any words you could have spoken. By shifting your focus back to yourself, you create a void in their world that no distraction can fill. But even then, the focus must not be about making them feel the loss. It must be about making yourself whole again. If they feel it, that is simply a byproduct of your transformation. Think about it this way. If you pour all your energy into someone who does not value it, you are like a river flowing into a desert. No matter how much water you give, it will never produce life. But if you redirect that same river into fertile ground, your own growth, your own healing, your own purpose, you will see everything flourish. You will watch yourself bloom in ways that person never imagined you could. That is the power of channeling energy back into yourself. This act of reclaiming your focus is not just about emotional survival. It is about identity. Every time you make someone else the center of your life, you shrink, you silence your own voice, compromise your own standards, and abandon your own dreams just to fit into their world. But when you erase them the way they erased you, you declare, I am no longer negotiating my worth. I am no longer sacrificing my future for the comfort of someone who discarded me. My life is mine to build. So what does this look like in practice? It means setting boundaries so firm that they can no longer reach you with half efforts and empty promises. It means taking your restless energy and putting it into the gym, into your studies, into your career, into your art, into anything that expands you. It means surrounding yourself with people who elevate you rather than drain you. It means refusing to reopen doors that were slammed in your face. It means replacing the question, why did they leave, with the far more important one, who am I becoming without them? And as you walk this path, you will notice something powerful. The more you build yourself, the less you need them. The more you rise, the smaller they become in your memory. One day you will look back and realize that being erased was not your destruction. It was your liberation. It was the push you needed to stop living as an extension of someone else and start living as the author of your own destiny. When someone erases you, let it be the turning point. Remove them from the center of your life, not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. Channel your energy back into yourself, not out of spite, but out of self-respect. In doing so, you transform the loss into strength, the pain into power, and the rejection into redirection. And in that moment, you will no longer fear being erased, because you will know that no one has the authority to erase a person who has chosen to write their own story. Loss is a teacher. Let it discipline you into strength rather than enslave you to pain. Every human being will face loss. It is inescapable. It is part of the structure of existence, and it comes in many forms: relationships, opportunities, time, even identity. Most people respond to loss by collapsing under its weight. They see it only as punishment, as a theft of what they once had, and they let it enslave them. They replay the past endlessly, turning pain into chains. But the truth is this: loss is not here to destroy you. It is here to instruct you. It is the most honest teacher you will ever have. And if you submit to its discipline, you will emerge sharper, stronger, and more unshakable than before. Pain is not optional in life, but suffering often is. The difference lies in whether you treat loss as an enemy or as a mentor. If you let it enslave you, you give it the power to dictate your future. You allow bitterness, regret, and despair to define who you are. But if you face it squarely, if you ask, what is this pain teaching me? What strength can I carve from this wound? Then you take control of it. You force loss to serve you instead of breaking you. That shift in perspective is the foundation of resilience. Think about this. Everything valuable in life is born through discipline. Athletes don't achieve greatness without enduring exhaustion. Artists don't create beauty without wrestling with doubt. Leaders don't command respect without walking through failure. And discipline itself is nothing more than the ability to endure discomfort for the sake of transformation. Loss gives you that same gift if you let it. It strips away illusions, exposes weakness, and forces you to confront reality. In doing so, it demands that you either collapse or grow. If you choose growth, then every loss becomes fuel. Consider relationships. When someone walks away, the easy response is to wallow in self-pity, to cling to memories, to ask why. That is enslavement to pain. It keeps you trapped in a loop that offers no progress. But when you let the loss discipline you, you learn something vital. Never build your entire identity on someone else. You learn that self-worth must be independent of another person's validation. You learn that silence, distance, and absence are not voids. They are spaces where you can rebuild yourself. That is strength born from loss. The same principle applies to failure. When you lose an opportunity, when a door slams in your face, you can either carry bitterness or you can carry lessons. Failure teaches you the cost of laziness, the price of hesitation, the necessity of preparation. It is the world telling you you were not ready. And instead of drowning in shame, you can let that truth discipline you into better habits, sharper focus, and relentless consistency. In that way, loss shapes you into someone capable of holding more than you once had. There is another reality. Loss reveals what truly matters. When something is stripped away, you see clearly whether it was essential or simply a comfort. Pain is a brutal filter. It forces you to confront what was an illusion and what was real. This clarity is not pleasant, but it is liberating. Once you have endured the fire of loss, you know exactly what deserves your time, your energy, and your heart. That clarity alone can save you from years of wasted effort. The discipline of loss also teaches endurance. When you survive what you thought you could not, your tolerance for struggle expands. That is strength in its purest form. Most people think strength is about appearing unshaken, but real strength is about being shaken and not breaking. It's about carrying scars without being defined by them. Every time you face loss and choose to rise instead of sink, you add another layer to your resilience, and eventually you become the kind of person who cannot be enslaved by pain because you've turned pain into training. But here is the hard truth. Letting loss discipline you requires humility. It requires you to stop asking why me and start asking what now. It requires you to stop blaming others and start taking responsibility for what you can control. Discipline is never comfortable. That's why so many run from it. But comfort never built anyone into greatness. Discipline did. And loss, when embraced, is one of the most powerful disciplines life can hand you. So what does this look like in practice? It means no longer obsessing over what's gone, but focusing on what can be built. It means refusing to let grief become your identity. It means standing tall in the wreckage and saying, I will use this. Use the rejection to fuel your work ethic. Use the heartbreak to sharpen your self-worth. Use the failure to strengthen your commitment. Loss is only wasted when you ignore its lesson. One day, you will look back and see that the very pain you once thought would break you was the catalyst for your transformation. You will realize that loss was not the end of your story, but the beginning of a stronger chapter. The chains you thought would enslave you were actually the weights that trained you. And by carrying them, you grew into someone more resilient, more focused, and more unshakable than you ever imagined. Loss is a teacher. Let it discipline you into strength rather than enslave you to pain. Because when you allow it to shape you, no betrayal, no failure, no heartbreak can define you. Instead, every loss becomes the reason you rise higher, stand taller, and live stronger than before. Erasing someone isn't revenge. It's the declaration that you no longer negotiate your worth. Revenge is about them. Erasure is about you. Revenge demands their attention, their reaction, their validation. But erasing someone is a choice to step outside of that toxic game. It is a refusal to keep bargaining over your value with someone who already proved they cannot recognize it. When you erase them, you don't just delete their presence, you reaffirm your own. You draw a line that says, my life is no longer up for debate, no longer waiting for your approval, no longer available for your dismissal. Too many people confuse erasure with anger. They think cutting someone off, pulling away, going silent is an act of spite. But in truth, it's the opposite. It's the moment you decide that your peace is too precious to be traded for crumbs of attention. It's the moment you choose dignity over desperation. Revenge says, I want you to hurt the way I hurt. Erasure says, I refuse to keep hurting myself by keeping you in my orbit. That is not cruelty. That is clarity. When you negotiate your worth with someone who undermines it, you lose every time. Because negotiation implies uncertainty. Negotiation suggests that your value is conditional, up for debate, dependent on whether they decide to acknowledge it. And here's the brutal truth. The more you argue for your worth, the more it diminishes in their eyes. They don't respect what you beg them to see. They respect what you refuse to compromise. That is why erasing them is so powerful. It ends the debate. It takes the bargaining table away. It declares, this is who I am. If you cannot see it, then you no longer have access to me. And the impact of that choice is seismic. When you erase someone, you're not punishing them. You're protecting yourself. You're cutting off the drain that siphons your energy, your joy, your focus. You're freeing yourself from the endless loop of proving, pleading, explaining, justifying. And once that loop is broken, your energy flows back to where it always belonged, into your own growth, your own life, your own future. People who erase others out of revenge remain tethered to them. They think about them constantly. They track their absence. They obsess over whether the other person is suffering. But people who erase out of self-respect forget. They move on. They stop negotiating. They reclaim the time and strength that was being wasted on someone who had no capacity to value them. That's why erasure isn't an act of hate. It's an act of liberation. Consider this. When you remove someone who doesn't honor your worth, you create space for people who will. Life does not reward clinging, it rewards releasing. When you hold on to the wrong person, you shut the door on better ones. But when you let go fully, when you erase without hesitation, you open the door to connections rooted in respect, admiration, and truth. And those connections can only appear when you stop negotiating with those who refuse to see your value. Erasure also shifts the balance of power. As long as you keep trying to convince someone of your worth, they hold the upper hand. They know you're waiting. They know you're still fighting for a place. But when you withdraw completely, when you erase them from your life without explanation or performance, they lose that control. They are forced to confront the void they created. Whether or not they regret it is irrelevant. The point is that you're no longer available to be dismissed. That silence, that absence, that erasure, it speaks louder than any argument ever could. But here's the most important truth. Erasing someone is not really about them at all. It's about the internal declaration you make. It's the moment you stop treating yourself like a negotiable contract and start treating yourself like a fixed reality. It's the moment you stop asking, what can I do to make them see me? And start saying, I am enough whether they see it or not. That mindset is where freedom begins. So what does erasure look like in practice? It looks like cutting off communication, not to prove a point, but to protect your peace. It looks like resisting the urge to check their updates, stalk their moves, or linger in their shadow. It looks like focusing on your body, your mind, your work, your circle of loyal people. It looks like building a life so strong and so radiant that the question of whether they see your worth becomes irrelevant. Because you see it, because you live it. And in that life, in that growth, something powerful happens. The pain of erasure fades, and the clarity of self-respect deepens. You no longer look back wondering if they miss you, if they regret, if they finally realize. That is their burden to carry. Your only concern is becoming the fullest version of yourself. That is the true reward of erasure. Erasing someone isn't revenge. It's the declaration that you no longer negotiate your worth. It's the end of bargaining, the end of begging, the end of shrinking yourself just to fit someone else's limited vision. It's not about making them suffer. It's about ensuring you no longer do. And when you erase from that place of strength, you step into a life where your worth is no longer conditional, no longer debated, no longer up for negotiation. It simply is. And no one can take that away. The moment you reclaim your focus, you force the other person to confront the emptiness they created. That is the power of withdrawal. That is the power of turning away from begging, chasing, and explaining, and instead choosing silence, distance, and self-respect. People often believe that they can walk away, erase you, or treat you as disposable without consequence. They think your world will collapse in their absence, that you will remain stuck, orbiting their memory. But when you reclaim your focus, when you redirect all of that energy back into yourself, you change the entire balance of power. You stop being the one left behind, and you become the one they can no longer reach. Focus is everything. What you give your attention to shapes your reality. If your focus is consumed by loss, by wondering why, by obsessing over their choices, you remain a prisoner of their absence. But the second you reclaim that focus, the second you take it away from them and reinvest it into your body, your mind, your ambitions, something shifts. You begin to rise, you begin to expand, and in doing so, you create a silence so profound that they cannot ignore it. That silence becomes a mirror, forcing them to confront the emptiness of the space where you used to stand. This isn't about games. It isn't about punishing them or pretending not to care. It is about living in such a way that their erasure no longer defines you. And yet, paradoxically, it's precisely when you stop trying to make them notice that they begin to feel it. They feel it in the absence of your words, in the void where your energy once lived. They feel it in the nights when they scroll through old conversations and realize you're no longer waiting on the other side. They feel it when they realize that your world didn't fall apart. It expanded without them. When you reclaim your focus, you prove something critical, that your life is not built on their approval. Too many people fall into the trap of making another person the axis of their existence. Every thought, every action, every dream gets filtered through the question, will this make them stay? Will this make them see me? That mindset is poison. It shrinks you. It enslaves you. It gives someone else the authority over your worth. But reclaiming focus is the antidote. It is saying, I will not live as an echo of someone else's decision. I will not negotiate my identity around someone's absence. My energy belongs to me. And the beauty of this truth is that once you reclaim your focus, your life begins to grow in ways you could not have imagined. You start to notice opportunities you were too distracted to see before. You build strength in places where there was once only fragility. You surround yourself with people who honor your presence instead of diminishing it. Your self-respect compounds like interest, and suddenly what once seemed unbearable now looks like liberation. You no longer carry the weight of convincing someone of your worth. You simply live it. Meanwhile, the other person is left with the reality they created. They thought you would remain available, waiting, orbiting their silence. They believed you would keep negotiating your value, keep proving your loyalty, keep showing up even after they erased you. But when you reclaim your focus, you remove that option from their hands. You hand them the gift of emptiness, the exact consequence of their dismissal. They are forced to sit with the silence they thought they wanted. They are forced to feel the absence of someone who once gave freely but no longer offers a single drop. But here's the key. You don't do this for them. You don't reclaim your focus to make them suffer. You reclaim your focus to make yourself whole. Their emptiness is not your responsibility. Their regret, their confusion, their longing, that belongs to them, not to you. Your only responsibility is to build a life so strong and so centered that no one's departure can shatter it again. That is the lesson of loss. Never hand another person the power to dictate your value. In practice, reclaiming your focus means discipline. It means resisting the urge to check their updates, to analyze their silence, to chase closure that will never come. It means pouring that restless energy into the gym, into your career, into your art, into the friendships that uplift you. It means choosing goals so demanding, so inspiring that you no longer have time to obsess over what's gone. And slowly, almost without noticing, the pain shifts. The grief turns into fuel. The emptiness turns into space for growth. And then something profound happens. You look back and realize you've outgrown them. The version of you that once begged for their attention no longer exists. You've become stronger, more grounded, more focused than you ever thought possible. That's when you understand their erasure was never the end of you. It was the beginning of you. Their absence forced you to see yourself more clearly than you ever had before, and by reclaiming your focus, you turned that pain into power. The moment you reclaim your focus, you force the other person to confront the emptiness they created, but more importantly, you force yourself to confront the truth you always needed, that your worth is not negotiable, that your life is not dependent on another's presence, and that your energy belongs to you alone. That is not revenge. It is transformation. That is not punishment. It is freedom. And once you taste that freedom, you will never hand your focus away again.